What's going on, everyone? It's been a while since we've done a video, so we'll get back into it with quite a quirky character I quite enjoyed seeing in the comics, and that is Weapon America from Earth 20504, aka Stephen Rogers. So this version of Steve Rogers, or Stephen Rogers, is a combination of a few different characters, mostly obviously Captain America, Wolverine, and a bit of Nuke. He first appears in Avengers Forever #7. We're introduced to a few versions of Steve Rogers in this comic, and originally the story isn't actually focusing on him. Basically, the Steves themselves are attempting to escape a prison, all full of different versions of Steve Rogers. Originally, Weapon America does not want to help out the team that are looking to escape. He is lurking in the shadows until his big reveal. The team manage to escape. Once they're free, they meet basically the captains of the multiverse, Captain America Multiversal team, led by various different variants of the characters. The whole concept of this prison was to basically see which versions of Captain America were good enough to join their multiversal teams, which obviously, since they've escaped, they're all capable of doing. Now, it wasn't just the multiversal Captain Americas, there was also the multiversal Avengers watching as well, looking to see if they could find variations of Captain America to help in their cause. They basically watched all these fight and realized that whilst, yeah, Weapon America looked cool, there's a hulked out version of Captain America on another planet, and they're going to go get him instead to join the team. So we had all of this, we got introduced to such a cool character, and then yeah, he's just kind of gone by the wayside. Luckily, they see the benefit of this character in the end, and he joins the multiversal Howling Commandos, and battles against the Council of Red with the rest of the group. Of course, Council of Red being all the variants of Mephisto. And this event all comes to a big head, and yeah, essentially the Council of Red are defeated, and Doom Supreme is also defeated at God Quarry, meaning that basically status quo is returned to normal, and these characters go back to their everyday livings in their universes. But again, Weapon America was quite a cool character. I'm sure we'll see pop up again in the comics sometime shortly. Just the combination of Captain America, Wolverine, and Nuke was a cool concept. Obviously having the Nuke tattoo on his face and the claws, and that healing factor. And with them all being basically part of a Weapons Plus, Weapons X program, it's not too uncommon to see these kind of guys thrown together. Cool, let me know what you thought of Weapon America, and tell me about it in the comments. Cheers. Doom Supreme. So, is this the most powerful version of Doom? We again are going into the multiverse for another version of Doctor Doom. So Doom Supreme comes from Avengers Forever, where this version of Doom has teamed up with Mephisto, as they usually do, to create a multiversal Masters of Evil and work basically alongside the Council of Red, slash sort of betray them, which is what Doom usually does, trying to take over the multiverse. Let's look into how this all happened. Of course, key fact, Doom again wants to recreate the universe in his own image, much like he does in the past. Now this version started off basically like any other version, ruler of Latveria, as well as having battles against the Fantastic Four, Avengers, etc. However, things took a change when this version of Doom becomes the Sorcerer Supreme of his universe. With this power, he took over his reality, and for years of torturing souls, he got bored. He needed a challenge, so he decided the best way to do that was to go back in time and kill the prehistoric Avengers, because they had some powerful characters and that would be pretty cool. After deciding this was fun, he stumbled across Mephisto. Mephisto looked at him and said, "Hey, you did a good job there. How about we do this all over the multiverse? But you just can't kill 616 just yet. I've got plans for them." Doom, being Doom, went,
Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah, let's do it. Both of them agreed on it. Obviously, they both had their ulterior motives. And the carnage began. Basically, Doom going around the universe, killing Avengers 1 million BC. Yeah, not very good. All this carnage alerts Avengers Prime. And the 616 Avengers, Robbie Reyes, they start to follow, trying to find out what this Doom is up to and how they can stop them. So this version of Doom also, while time traveling, encountered various versions of himself. One version, when he had severely damaged armor, killed him to replace them. Other versions of himself, he actually trapped and put them on the living planet Doom, which was, imagine if he was Ego the living planet, and kept them as his own army. Now, they finally made it to 616, but they're met by this version of the prehistoric Avengers, the current Avengers, who have been time traveling to follow him. And during the battle, basically Doom sneaks off, leaving Mephisto behind with his army, heading off to God Corey, using them as a distraction for the first ferment. Now, he started to battle the Council of Red, Avengers Prime, were able to slow him down or stand strong. But this is where Doom strikes. Yeah, all those Dooms that he had captured, he releases as his army of Doom from across the multiverse that he'd been keeping prisoner. He almost succeeded in his plans, but he was basically stopped by the team, all joining up together, managed to stop him. They somehow destroy the God Corey itself, which was part of his plan, and he was about to touch one of the parts, which would have given him all the power Doom needs to do all the naughty stuff. But 818 Tony Stark, aka Ant-Man of this time, used his Stark particles to change the size of the part he was trying to absorb, which basically turned him to stone, which I thought it would just overload him and overpower him, but yeah, Doom Supreme got turned to stone and is finally defeated. Now, is Doom Supreme one of the strongest versions of Doom that we see? Probably. The Sorcery Supreme / Doom's powers combined is an incredible idea, / the knowledge that Doom always has to defeat his enemies is something that I would not want to mess with. Yeah, I would still say Secret Wars Doom was the peak strongest Doom, but this guy was up there. End of Time Doom is also quite a powerful one, but Doom Supreme, the Sorcerer Doom Supreme, or whatever you like to call him, was a great villain, and I'm sure they'll probably bring a version of him back in the future. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next video. Okay, so Ultimate 4. Now, I am the biggest Thor whore out there. I think Thor Odinson in the 616 is undoubtedly the best Marvel character they have. So, yeah, let's have a look at Thor from the Ultimate Universe. One I wasn't really too familiar with until I started reading into it more. This version of Thor, or Four-Leaf Golem, aka the Ultimate Thor, is quite interesting. So let's dig into it. Okay, so it starts off with Golem, who originally was a psychiatric nurse and was going about his life as he does, being a nurse, blah blah blah, and basically on his 30th birthday he starts to break down, and yeah, he starts to believe that he is basically a Norse god. He is put into a mental institution. They don't believe anything about him, yet he's there for a while. But yeah, he believes he is a Norse god, and he's on a mission to save the planet and stop all wars, which is quite an interesting turn of events. Now, he gets a gig on a Europe Super Soldier Serum creation. There he meets people like Donald Blake, who in this reality is not an alternative version of Thor. He is actually Mulder, and Dr. Braddock, who is also working on the serum. Yeah. Basically, Golem, it keeps saying all this stuff that he's a Norse god, so they hook him up to a machine and find out he's telling the truth. in the end, he discovers Donald Blake is also Baldur, and Baldur tells him that Asgard is coming back and it's going to be reincarnated, but also some of the other Asgardians are still around. So let's find them and see what's going on. So if he is Thor, he needs to have the power of Thor. So the team decide to give equipment to him to make his power basically come back. He gets this armor that mimics his strength and creates power, but he needs a power source to hold everything. And what does Thor want? Well, he wants a hammer. So yeah, rather than having Mjolnir, he has a hammer, which is a huge power source for him. Now, as I mentioned, other Asgardians were around, so Loki was also reincarnated. He was being held prisoner, but managed to escape with his trickery from a room with no doors. Whilst at the same time, Bruce Banner had injected himself with a flawed version of the ultimate super soldier serum and became the Hulk. Thor sees this and has enough, and joins in the fight for the first time, deciding to become the ultimate Thor. Now, throughout the run, it is retconned a bit. He runs into Odin, who restores his powers. There's slight changes by Ultimate 3. He is using basically a hammer that looks like Mjolnir. Unfortunately, the Children of Tomorrow strip him of the Odin Force, which was gifted to him by Odin, and wipe out basically all the Asgardian race except for him. Thor basically is seen pushing his son into the world tree, with the hammer, basically saving his son and the hammer, but you don't know what's happened. As a result, he's currently powerless, but what they do is they do what they did in the beginning, basically give him his armor back and his hammer, but this time it's been upgraded by Tony Stark. So he's an even stronger version of Thor, and he's been retconned twice. Unfortunately, the Ultimate Universe came to an end. Secret Wars basically joined everything together. Thor disappeared. Well, this version of Thor did. His hammer ended up in the 616 universe. Slightly different. It was kind of enchanted. Gave people the power of War Thor. There was a great storyline where Thanos and Odin's son were looking at this hammer, as Odin's son at the time had been made unworthy of Mjolnir. Really liked seeing that character. I would love to see... Well, I've heard good things about Thor in the new Ultimates universe, so definitely need to get in and read that and see what's going on. But yeah, Thor's a great character to me. Apparently this is the one the design's more based off for the Avengers, so yeah. Let me know what you thought of Ultimate Thor. Tell me what your favourite Ultimate Thor story was, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. So, what if Wolverine got the powers of the Phoenix Force? Well, this happened in Universe 14412. Alright guys, Park Life Nerds here, back again, and covering quite a cool combination character here, Old Man Phoenix. Yep, that's right, Wolverine has the Phoenix Force. Let's begin. So, basically, this story starts off the same as most. Wolverine the same way, except in this world, King Loki wipes out all of mankind except Logan. Logan was killed, but his healing factor brings him back. He is basically resurrected by the Phoenix, and it chose him to travel the universe, wiping out as many celestial bodies as it can along the way. Logan basically takes up this role and does it for eons, until he bumps into Loki, the same Loki who wiped out everything. Loki looks at Wolverine and says, "You know what? And when I look at you, I see people I regret killing." He actually begs Wolverine to go back in time and stop him from collecting the Infinity Stones that turned him into King Loki. He begged him so much that Old Man Phoenix decided, okay, yep, I'll go back and stop this from happening. So Old Man Phoenix basically travels back to current day, the 616 universe, and looks like his younger self. He steals the Space Stone from a S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, and using this one, he travels to see what basically all his friends that he misses over time are up to. He watches Kitty Pryde's wedding, he sees people from afar, tries not to get too involved in case they pick up that he is not the Wolverine from this timeline. Now, unfortunately, because of his actions, a version of Ultron wants the Infinity Stones himself, and it starts a big fight. But this version of the Phoenix Wolverine just lays waste to them all. Logan decides he's had enough and decides to fly through space to see basically what's going on, and he ends up bumping into Thor. Thor at this time is the All-Father. Surprised to see Logan as the Phoenix Force. He asks if he would like to help him basically bring life back into the universe, but Logan himself does not want this and begins to attack. They have a huge fight, both men gaining the upper hand at different times. Thor using lightning to strike Wolverine, Wolverine himself gaining the upper hand, trying to give the killing blow, but the Phoenix Force, who in a prior time had relations with the All-Father, stops him from doing so, so Thor himself manages to take down the Phoenix. As a result, Old Man Phoenix and Thor team up to take on Doom. Doom himself has the spirit of vengeance, and now that's a cool come together. Doom uses the penance stare on Wolverine and burns him to a skeleton, but obviously he comes back. They end up teaming up to defeat this version of Doom by putting the Phoenix Force into Mjolnir and throwing him at Doom, destroying him in the process. Yeah, quite a cool battle. One of the next times you see Phoenix Wolverine, Old Man Phoenix, Old Phoenix Wolverine man, is in the Goddess of Thunder's Avengers. These are Thor's granddaughters, so he teams up with them to take on some terrible situations going on. This is right up until before he ends up getting slayed by Mystique, who has a Phoenix gun. Yep, that's right, something called a Phoenix gun. The Phoenix then goes into Mystique. She becomes the Dark Phoenix, but then the granddaughters of Thor travel the space to re-find all the pieces of Wolverine, put him back together. The Phoenix comes back into him, and they travel to God Quarry for the huge battle that happens there. Yeah, and there's about 3 different versions of the Phoenix at this one point in time, so it's quite cool. This was the last you really see of Old Man Phoenix. After this version of Wolverine retires to become a gardener. But it's quite a cool concept to see these different characters, what they do once they get powers such as the Phoenix. Alright, and that was Old Man Phoenix. Let me know what you think of this incredibly overpowered character. Yeah, could you imagine just the Phoenix Force possessing Wolverine? Such a cool idea to go ahead with. Yeah. Let me know if you can think of any cool crossovers you would like. Doom with the Spirit of Vengeance sounds like quite a cool one if you ask me. Yeah, let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe if you like this video. Cheers. Alright, so Marvel have released Timeless Volume 3, and we got a good look at some new characters. One that we'll look at today, quite like the look of myself personally, which is Old Man Luke Cage. Alright, let's begin. So, basically, Old Man Luke Cage first appeared, as I mentioned, in Timeless, basically the end of last year, 2023. Brief backstory into this one is he is basically an overpowered amalgamation of multiple different characters. Basically, the story itself starts with Danny Rand and Luke Cage in a diner, basically talking about the way on how to kill a dragon. As you all know, the Iron Fist backstory, there's dragon killing involved. Basically, after this, there is a bit of a fade out, and it says we're in the future. We now see old Luke Cage struggling with images of destruction in his head, all these images of the past, people he used to love dying, all the destruction going on around him, and then it kind of snaps through. You realize that this is the void clouding his mind. Yep, that's right, that's the same void that is in Robert Reynolds' brain, aka the Century. Now, luckily, Luke manages to gain his sense, and he claims the age of heroes is now over. Above Luke's head, hovering, is a strange pyramid-like structure, and then Luke is heard to be saying, Khonshu has won the war, but he is here for payback. Luke then reveals that he has the power of the Century, the Hulk,
and the Iron Fist. That is a overpowerful combination, if you ask me, especially with Luke Cage's normal abilities. Luke confronts the new Moon Knight. They start to have a bit of a battle. He manages to smash the mask of this version of Moon Knight, aka the immortal Moon Knight, and it is basically revealed that this is in fact Danny Rand, who used to be best friends and the Iron Fist. Luke basically gets the upper hand, basically forcing Khonshu to release Danny, and he comes out of the Moon Knight body himself and attacks Luke himself with a sickle, cutting off his right arm. There is a huge battle between Khonshu and old man Luke Cage, and Cage himself manages to beat Khonshu. The world starts to heal. Cage is then pulled into this new timeline by some strange powers. He sees visions of Doctor Strange and other Sorcerer Supremes. So yeah, Luke is then pulled through into the modern day timeline, where he basically is now stuck in this new world, waiting for the next story to begin. And that was that episode of Timeless. Now, I quite enjoyed this story. I do like sort of these stories when they're one-offs, all these powers combined. I mean, we've had Old Man Phoenix, we've had the Immortal Moon Knight in this one here, a great mashup of characters. Be interested to see what they do with this character going forward, seeing as they brought him into continuity and built on some stories for the future. Luke Cage, I've got old copies of Power Fist and Power Man and Iron Fist. Power Fist is a good combination there, another character from days back, but yeah, would love to see him get a big story run. So if they could do that, that would be incredible. And yeah, just let's see how it brings into the modern day. Will he work with these Avengers to stop another multiversal threat, or will he just kind of fade into the background, much like Cosmic Ghost Rider ended up doing? So yeah, thank you for listening to me babble on about this character. If you like Old Man Luke Cage, let me know. What combination of characters would you like to see going forwards? And yeah, if you like this one, please like and subscribe and follow me for more videos. Cheers.
Imagine if the Ghost Rider and Venom joined up. Well, this happened, and that's how we got the Host Rider. What's going on, everyone? Park Life Nerds here, back for another Who Were They? And today we're looking at Robbie Reyes of Earth 53912, aka the Host Rider. Okay, so in this universe, Robbie's story pretty much starts off the same as in the 616 universe. He is possessed by the evil spirit of his uncle Eli Morrow, and he is able to control the spirit and go down a path of good. Well, this was until he encountered the Venom symbiote, and at this point the symbiote had already been bonded to Peter Parker, so it had all the abilities of both the symbiote and Spider-Man. The symbiote merged with Robbie, creating a war of free spirits basically going on inside Robbie's body. There was alien versus demon versus human, and unfortunately for the human, he did not do too well. The symbiote and the demon teamed up to take over Robbie's body, both of them merging together, locking Robbie away in the back of the brain. So basically it was just Venom and Eli in control of everything. The spirit and symbiote basically bonded, and they became the Host Rider. Kind of a play on basically Robbie being trapped away. He was a host and they were just using him. The Host Rider decided it was time to go devour the wicked, and his first stop was Dr. Calvin Zabo. They destroyed all the S.H.I.E.L.D. army that was trying to stop them. After finding him, he fed on Zabo's soul, and he fed the body to his Hell Charger, which had become basically a symbiotic entity itself. And then all of a sudden, he is teleported away to another universe. This is by a Venomized version of Doctor Strange, and this is where we get the Venomverse story arc and his introduction to that story. So, powers and abilities, basically, he's got the powers of a Ghost Rider and a symbiote, specifically Prime Universe Venom. He's got new add-ons. Instead of a penance stare, he has a penance kiss, which is where he basically licks his person he's after, decides if they are impure or pure. If they are impure, he then sucks their soul out of their body. He can manifest his Hell Charger out of his body, which is pretty cool. The Hell Charger itself is fueled by the souls and the flesh of all his victims. Now, as he is a combo of a Ghost Rider and a symbiote, he has actually got rid of the one weakness that symbiotes have the most, which is fire. So he is no longer affected by that. He has large fangs, claws, and a flaming tongue. Because he's been a symbiote, he can basically augment his chains like the Spider-Man coming out of his body. Now, this character only really featured in that storyline and the Venomverse, but it is quite a cool concept. I would love to see more crossovers with this character. I think anything that's got a Spirit of Vengeance or a symbiote on it is pretty cool, so combining them together, yeah, very, very much a fan of that. Alright, so let me know what you think about the Host Rider, and let me know if there's any more characters you would like me to cover. Thank you for watching this short video. Who is the Black Skull? So how many of you there had actually heard of the Black Skull? Until recently, I hadn't, and quite frankly, he's a really cool villain. So the Black Skull is Johann Schmidt from Earth 21798. As we all know him as Captain America's main villain, the Red Skull. In this universe, his history lines up pretty much the same as his 616 counterpart. However, at an unknown point in time, he bonds with the Venom symbiote, which is pretty damn cool. He picked up the symbiote whilst in a fight with Nighthawk, the Nighthawk from this universe, that is. And their joining seems to have appeared to have happened basically before Venom had an opportunity to join Spider-Man. So he doesn't have any of those attributes that the Venom symbiote gains from Peter Parker. It's unclear also how Nighthawk had the symbiote. Nighthawk himself is a member of the Squadron Supreme of this universe, so that's like Hyperion, etc. So yeah, basically now you've got the Red Skull joined with a Venom symbiote, obviously increasing all sorts of powers. He gets all the things that the Venom symbiote would have given its host. He gets the shape-shifting ability, the ability to mimic, augmentation, the host's physical strength becomes superhuman. He's got the ability to regenerate now. And he's also got all those abilities that Johann Schmidt would have had as the Red Skull, being a tactical genius and just that crazy psychopath that the Red Skull was in all cases. Now, the Red Skull mainly appears as a member of the Multiversal Masters of Doom. This is a group led by Doom Supreme, who is a version of Doctor Doom. It also has members such as the Ghost Goblin, which is the Green Goblin possessed by the Ghost Rider. An amazing idea. King Killmonger. This is the Killmonger himself with a symbiote. An unknown one, not the Venom symbiote or Carnage, but he's got his own. Kid Thanos. And the Dark Phoenix. That is an overpowered team, and this is a OP villain team that you've got to read the story. This group planned to eliminate all the Earths in existence and reset the Age of Heroes. Basically, they want to get rid of this age where all the heroes have come from, reshaping the future into one where they did not exist. They had already stated that the Masters of Evil at this time had already destroyed 615 alternative Earths, so even though 616 is the main universe, they had destroyed many, many more. I mean, Black Skull himself is from Universe 2000 and something, so there are a lot more still out there, but they were going ahead with their plan. Unfortunately, the Masters met their end with a team brought together by Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, and a few Deathlocks, many different versions of Ant-Man, Iron Man throughout the universe, the Carol Corps. They had a huge battle. In the end, as villains always do, they ended up betraying each other. It was it was Doom Supreme, who basically saw everyone else as cannon fodder, and the Dark Phoenix did not like this, and being the Dark Phoenix, was the only one that basically prevailed in the end, so the group split up. I personally would love to see more stories involving the Black Skull. It seems like an interesting villain, and imagine Captain America having to face a villain like that would be pretty darn cool. Could do a team up with Spider-Man down the lines, again, those two characters together would be great.
If you've read any other comic books that feature this villain, let me know, because I would love to read more about him. He seems pretty cool. And yeah, just if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Please just let me know what you want me to do more of. Cheers.
Alright team, so today we're going to look at quite a cool character I've recently discovered as we're going through Avengers Forever. Now, this one picks up in volume 3 and we're in the 818 universe. I love this universe, it's an interesting one. So basically everything started off the same as any other Earth or any other multiverse. There's a prehistoric Avengers, except along come the Masters of Evil and they are defeated, and this world becomes basically a desolate wasteland ruled by the Black Skull. Covered him in a previous video. He is an incredible villain, and yeah, so what happens in a world where everything did not go the way it's supposed to? Do we still get Avengers? Well, in short, yes, we got Tony Stark, Ant-Man, and this time we're going to cover the character Infinity Thing. So sit back and let's begin. So, as mentioned, things are quite different in this timeline. In this one, there's no Mr. Fantastic, there's no Reed, Sue, or Johnny. Ben Grimm himself is there, and he is best to describe a rogue astronaut. Due to all the trouble that's happened, he starts to travel through space, searching for answers on a way that they can defeat the Black Skull. And, well, as you know, there's always going to be a way to do it, so he goes off into space, he's looking around, and something happens, and he gains incredible powers. Now, he resembles his 616 counterpart here in the shape and the rock formations on his body, except this is different. This looks like he's touched something involving infinity or the Infinity Stones, and he is multicolored like the stones themselves, and he comes back down to Earth. Now, as he gets back to Earth, he joins in the battle against the Black Skull and all the war machines. He's managing to destroy heaps of them, and he even opens infinity portals to the multiversal Avengers headquarters. He helps battle at God Quarry and defeat the Council of Red, and then he's offered a place on the multiversal Avengers, but he decides to stick around and help rebuild his world with the 818 version of Wonder Man from this dimension. Quite cool. An extremely overpowered character. One of these characters you didn't think they would give this much spotlight to. Usually it's a Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four who ends up with something like an Infinity Glove. To see the Thing gain these powers is incredible. So how strong is Infinity Thing? Well, basically imagine putting the Infinity Stones on him. He can warp reality, he can slow time, he can travel, extreme strength, extreme speed. It feels like watching it, he's not quite come to grips of how to use all the powers, but once he probably gets to them, he will be unstoppable. I think the idea of him staying behind to help rebuild his planet was a good one, because he would have been too overpowerful in the final battle and it would have been quite easy. You kind of want to have, I don't know, a bit of suspense or a bit of unsurety about those battles in the comics. But yeah, Ben Grimm 818 is one of the coolest versions of the Things I've ever seen, and I love this universe and looking forward to reading more about it. Sweet, and let me know what you think about Infinity Thing, and yeah, see you in the next video.
Who is End of Time Doom? What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to have a quick look at an alternate version of Doctor Doom from Earth 14412. Love a good alternate character in the Marvel Universe. They get to explore some few different things. This one, really cool in my opinion. How to make a character very overpowered? Well, just listen to this. Let's get on with End of Time Doom. Okay, so this version of Victor Von Doom started off the same as every other one, much like the Earth 616. This was until this version, say version again, of Loki wipes out all of humanity and there is only a few survivors left. This is the same timeline where you get Phoenix Force, so not Phoenix Force, Phoenix what you do, and Old Man Phoenix, Wolverine Phoenix. Basically, there's only a few survivors left. Victor is one of them. He is not too happy with everything and looks to gain as much power as he can so that he can get revenge. Basically, he goes after the powers of the prehistoric Avengers, and if you don't know the prehistoric Avengers, I would definitely get out there and have a look into them. There's some cool characters, apparently the first versions of certain characters in Marvel history. He basically gains the Star Brand. As we know, the Star Brand gives you the power to defeat whatever situation you're in. The Iron Fist, which again, Danny Rand, Iron Fist, I guess he had to defeat a dragon to do that one. So I'm not sure how he could defeat a dragon if there wasn't any around, if the Earth was defeated. He got the Cloak of Levitation, one of Doctor Strange's artifacts, the Eye of Agamotto, and my personal favourite, he got the Spirit of Vengeance. So he was also Ghost Rider, Doom Rider. Yeah, he had an incredible mixture of power inside of him. I don't know who thought this up. It was a good idea to give this villain so many powers. Well, I guess he wouldn't see himself as a villain. He's Doctor Doom. He basically had almost created himself into becoming a god. Now, in this timeline, Old King 4 decided it's time to recreate Earth, bring back all humanity. Doom decides it's a good time to go check it out or invade it. He is absolutely pissed that Latveria does not resemble it how it was when he had it. It's actually just a nice garden area, which Doom not very happy with. He wanted his country back. So, as you can imagine, a battle started. So, End of Time Doom versus Old Man Phoenix, which is Wolverine with the Phoenix Force. The three granddaughters of Thor are wielding various hammers. I think one's got Stormbreaker, one's got Mjolnir, and I always forget the name of it. The axe that, or the mace that went with Blake. What's his name? The guy, basically the guy who was Thor for a while, Donald Blake. So they've all got an artifact, and they are. Well, I think one of the daughters had the axe actually, because Thor had Mjolnir. So they all had basically mystical items, and of course Old King 4. Basically, they had a huge battle. Old King 4 battled him for 99 days straight. He was eventually defeated by the combination of them all. I think the Phoenix had to go into the hammer and get hit into him, basically just to defeat him. And yeah, so this version of Doom, arguably, is almost the strongest version out there. I would say probably Secret Wars, once he gains the power of the Beyonders, would be stronger. If you know of any other versions of Doom that would go toe-to-toe with End of Time Doom, let me know in the comments. But I thought this version was incredible. But then again, it's Doom. He always finds ways to gain power somehow. Yeah, thank you for letting me ramble on for a bit about this character, and we'll see you in the next video.
Okay, so the Avengers, 1 million BC. Now, this is a team. Originally, this team was assembled to battle a Celestial who had come to Earth, but driven mad by a disease called the Horde. Now, this Avengers was definitely OP. You had basically the first mutant called Firehair. She became a host of the Phoenix Force. You had Odin. Odin Borson, who basically was in his Thor Odinson stage, going around with Mjolnir, basically taking his own path. You had a demigod, Agamotto, from Doctor Strangelore, so the Agamotto of the Eye of Agamotto. You had Black Panther, the first to basically summon the Panther spirits or survive the trials of the Black Panther tribe. And there was a Ghost Rider who rode around on a mammoth. Yep, that is badass. You also had Chi, the Iron Fist, who was the original person to defeat the dragon and become the first Iron Fist. Then, yeah, there was also a Star Brand. Now, this one is interesting because he looks like he's the Hulk, but basically it was a caveman who discovered the corpse of a dinosaur that possessed the Star Brand, which is the global defense system, and gained its powers. Yeah, again, not sure why it resembled a Hulk, but was a badass.
Anyway, they defeated the Celestial and buried him deep underground. This would become kind of a build up to the story in the future. They battled many people throughout time and ended up facing a few time travelers, so they crossed over with multiple heroes. So yeah, during one battle, Black Panther died, which is not good for the Avengers. They were a bit upset and a bit going astray. Odin, being the man who he is, took this as the perfect chance to make his moves on the Phoenix and asked her to marry him. She turned him down and was not having a bar of it. Odin basically then says, alright, sweet. Everyone just, let's go to Asgard, as we do. He set up a secret wedding, and the Phoenix, of course, stormed off. The team disbanded after this, but briefly got back together to protect Thor as he was being birthed. The Frost Giants attacked and actually managed to kill Baby Thor, but the Phoenix herself brought him back to life, so the Phoenix is actually responsible for saving Thor's life as a baby. They would reassemble and battle the Masters of Evil and Mephisto's Council of Red and team up with the modern day Avengers. However, Phoenix and Black Panther refused at this time. Instead, Moon Knight joined the fight, who originally opposed the Avengers but managed to help them in the end. The Avengers scared off basically everyone, beat the Mephisto's Council of Red, and Doom Supreme went to God Quarry for the final battle. Yeah, pretty cool team. I'm a big fan of Ghost Rider, so seeing Ghost Rider on a mammoth was pretty cool. Seeing Odin as a younger version of himself is quite good. Very Thor-like in his appearance. And yeah, Phoenix, the original mutant. I always feel like we seem to keep getting new. Is this the first mutant? So now we've got fire hair. Yeah. Let me know what you think of the prehistoric Avengers. In my opinion, great team. Or just wonder if they'll ever get used again, but there we go. Great example of how to make a team out of nowhere and give it some great lore. Cheers. Alright guys, so let's talk about my current new favourite world, Earth 818. There's so many interesting versions of characters in this universe, and the Avengers Forever storyline is an incredible one, so let's quickly jump into it and see what everything's all about. Okay, so the beginning. Basically, it paralleled the same as every other Earth that has been around. This one itself was destined to be the loveliest planet in the multiverse. Everything went the same, creation, blah blah blah. Then the multiversal Masters of Evil turned up and absolutely butchered this version's Avengers 1 million BC. As a result, this world ended up becoming a wasteland of what it should have been, a barren shell, and yeah, it was then taken over by the Black Skull. And if you don't know who the Black Skull is, you should check out my other video. Basically, what happens if the Red Skull gets the Venom symbiote. So what happens now? History has been rewritten. No longer is this the loveliest planet in existence. It's just a terrible, terrible place to live. Do you still get Avengers? Do you still get evolution? Well, yes, you do, but not the way you were expecting it. Okay, so let's start with Tony Stark, this universe's Ant-Man. In this timeline, Tony Stark is obsessed over the past and dedicated himself to basically studying all the forgotten sciences to basically relieve him of his loneliness. He went out and studied. He also made his own friend, which is this universe's version of Vision. He discovered an ancient celestial head while researching, and in doing so found something that made a miracle-sized changing particles. He adapted this and called it Stark Particles, a very take on Pym particles. Basically, due to his knowledge and these particles, he was captured by the Black Skull. The Black Skull forced him to create war machines, which is basically an elite police force of robots that the Black Skull used to control everything in this universe. Luckily, he managed to escape and joined other heroes to fight off the Black Skull and try to undo the carnage caused by his war machines. The Infinity Thing. In this reality, we do not have a Fantastic Four. There's no Reed Richards, no Sue Storm, no Johnny. But there is a Ben Grimm. And Ben Grimm was an astronaut and basically had enough of what was going on in the world and decided we needed to defeat the Black Skull. And the way to do it is not on this Earth. So he went off into space looking for something, and he came back with immense power. Now, he obviously touched something, either Infinity itself or came into contact with the Infinity Stones, as he now had the power of the Infinity Gauntlet. He looked basically like the 616 thing, except color-coded to the Infinity Stones. He was incredibly strong. As we mentioned, the Vision. So yeah, this version of the Vision was created by Tony Stark, and it was basically because he needed a friend as a lonely child. Although he was never able to fully finish this version of the Vision, he was a very almost complete android. He was able to help Tony Stark escape the Black Skull and help join the 818 Avengers in the battle at God Quarry. He had very similar powers to his 616 counterpart, so yeah, if a kid can create that, that's pretty incredible. Simon Williams, Wonder Man. Now, this version of Wonder Man, an interesting one. He was also an actor like a 616 counterpart, except he was captured by the Black Skull, and he was forced to fight people to the death for the entertainment of the Black Skull. Not really acting, if you think of it. After he escaped the clutch of the Black Skull, he met up with Tony Stark and joined the Avengers of this Earth. And then the Ghost Rider and Death Clocks arrived, and they looked at him and said, "We need your help, basically, to defeat the Black Skull." In doing so, they managed to do it on this Earth. However, he didn't go off to God Quarry, as he decided to stay on his Earth to rebuild what has been destroyed. And Moon Knight. So, Moon Knight, Marima Spectre, joined to fight the War Machines. She was described as a one-woman army, the Fist of Khonshu, and basically she joined the fight because she'd had enough of all these War Machines. She was extremely powerful and even joined the fight at God Quarry to attack the Council of Red. And this is the Avengers of Earth 818. Now, they battle the War Machines, they help defeat the Black Skull, various versions of the Red Skull as well in his army. Most of the fights, they become members of the Avengers Prime team and help stop at God Quarry, attacking the Council of Red, which is Mephisto's army, as well as Doom Supreme. They were an incredible team. Infinity Thing and Wonder Man obviously stay behind to recreate their world, which would be great to see how that goes in the future if we get any more crossovers. I think Tony Stark as Ant-Man was a cool swap around, just because they're both very intelligent beings, but just seeing someone with, like, say, Tony Stark's brain with Ant-Man's powers is quite cool. Infinity Thing, again, super strong. Never really thought they'd give that sort of powers to him. He's already quite strong. And Wonder Man, I've never really read the comics, so it's quite good to see one where he's more in the forefront, especially with the backstory of being forced to kill by the Black Skull, which I thought was quite cool. Well, killing's not cool, but you know what I mean. Giving him a bit more of a tragic backstory always helps the character out. And then, of course, Robbie Reyes turns up as the All-Rider, trying to set things right. So yeah, let me know what you think of the 818 universe and which characters you want to see brought over to the main universe more often. Let me know in the comments. Cheers.
What's going on, everyone? Park Life Nerds here, back again, and we are going to cover some more characters from the Marvel Universe. Today we're going to cover a version of one of my favourite characters, Thor. This one coming from the multiverse, best known as Thor, God of Fists. Let's begin. Okay, so for this version of Thor, we're going to Universe 56337 and looking into the Avengers Forever storyline. Now, this version of Thor, life pretty much mimics the 616 counterpart. He is the son of Odin. Everything happened where basically he's trying to prove himself worthy. That is, however, the one main detail is
he is still unworthy. No matter how many times he tried, he was unable to lift the hammer. No matter what he did, he was still unworthy. And this is where everything basically starts to change, and eventually, as this storyline goes, the multiversal Masters of Evil turn up to his version of Asgard, and they brutally slaughter all of them, basically except for Thor, so Thor is left as the last Asgardian. Now, as this is going on, Thor himself felt absolutely helpless. He was unable to lift Mjolnir when the time needed it, and yeah, he was left to watch basically his own people die. And then the Masters of Evil basically doubled down on this when they head to Earth, and basically slaughter everyone on Midgard, which was Thor's home away from home. So not only that, he'd watched both his beloveds basically destroyed by these multiversal Masters of Evil. Now, as you can imagine, Thor is pretty much distraught. He's destroyed. He felt like he was powerless to do anything about this. And just to add salt to the injury, Mjolnir follows him around. So basically, wherever he goes, the hammer follows, waiting to see if he's worthy. But every time he picks it up, no go. He can't pick it up. It just won't budge. So it's almost as if the hammer itself is mocking this version of Thor. Now, in an attempt to escape the hammer, he ventures to the Himalayas, basically for a peace of mind. He's climbing around the hills, and unfortunately the hammer again finds him, landing close by. Basically frustrated, Thor starts punching the hammer, basically until his fists bleed. Now, while this is happening, he is interrupted by Lycan, who is the Iron Fist mythology. Lycan makes fun of Thor and basically tells him that he does know how to punch. He does not know how to punch. Sorry, as you can see, he's bloodying his hands all over this hammer. Lycan calls Thor the god of thunder, which upsets Thor. He's like, "Don't call me that. I am no god. I can't even lift this bloody hammer." So he takes Thor to Kunmun, I probably butchered that one, where unfortunately the Master of Evil had already been and destroyed everything. Well, not everything, as you can't basically burn down a dragon. So, yeah, the dragon was still there. Thor was taken to the chamber down below to see if he could be worthy of becoming the next vessel for the next Iron Fist. Maybe he can't be the God of Thunder. Maybe he can be the Iron Fist. Whilst this is all happening, Thor is still being followed by the hammer. The hammer at one point bumps into Thor, and he turns around, taking another swing at the hammer. At this point, Lycan basically says to Thor, "Have you ever thought maybe your hands aren't for lifting, but they are for punching?" And that sets in mind the god of this storyline. For 60 days and 60 nights, Thor basically starts punching repetitively the hammer, growing the calluses all over his hands. And after 60 days, finally, Mjolnir starts to fight back. It's almost as if the hammer had become scared of Thor, realizing that he was gaining strength from this workout. They battle back and forth, obviously the hammer letting off discharge, hitting Thor. Now the hammer is pretty much ready to be defeated, ready to be claimed by Thor. He's become worthy by defeating it this way. But then all of a sudden, Thor decides he won't lift it. He declines it. He thinks there's another way to become a god of thunder. And at this moment, Lycan then all of a sudden punches Thor and says, "Good, it's time to become the Iron Fist." So they have a bit of a fight, takes him down to the Dragon Tomb, where he is greeted by, the decaying dragon skeleton. Lycan claims that is correct. Yeah, they did actually destroy the dragon, and this was the only way they could think of continuing the Iron Fist legacy, basically. So, officially, he is the Iron Fist, but he's not the Iron Fist, he is the God of Fists. He now has the power in his body to punch, basically, thunder through all his training, and it's now his turn to head out into the multiverse, where he bumps into the Multiversal Avengers and joins the team for revenge against the Masters of Evil. He becomes a main part of this team. A really cool team if you want cool alternate versions of some of your favourite characters. Now, personally, as a Thor whore, I really enjoyed this story. I love the swerve that he
could have picked up the hammer but decided to stay away from it. You think he's going to become the Iron Fist, and then no, he's just been training just to punch thunder, but still, yeah, kind of goes back to the movie, are you the god of hammers or are you the god of thunder, you know? So really cool. Love to keep reading this story, see how it goes. Big fan of the run with Avengers Forever, so yeah, if you like this story, go find it yourself, have a good read, see what you think, and we'll see you next video. Cheers. Okay team, it's time to jump back into the multiverse and look at another version of one of our favourite characters. What's going on everyone? It is Park Life Nerds back, and today we are going to look at Weapon 8, Peter Parker. So as we all know, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. However, in this universe, they've taken a very different stance on it, bringing him into the Weapons Plus program. Now, his origin story is slightly different in this one. In this universe, Peter Parker becomes a test subject for Department H. Now their experiment, on Peter Parker, something happens with a spider. He ends up giving him 6 eyes, like a spider, organic webs, and then he gets 4 limbs that come out of his back, much like the Iron Spider suit, but these are real limbs that come out of him there. So he is basically a Spider-Man. Hence the Spider-Man aspect of it. But as part of Weapons Plus program, so he's had his mind wiped, and he gets deployed on many missions by the department and carries them out very effectively. Now he has successfully captured Wolverine, aka Weapon X. In this storyline, it happens early on in the Weapon X situation. Now in this storyline, he is very successful at his job. He captures Wolverine, aka Weapon X at the time, when basically Wolverine had just escaped from the facilities. He's going through the jungle. Weapon 8 manages to immobilize him and burns him to a crisp with napalm. You believe that Wolverine is dead, but you see his body left on a bench there, so not sure if he's healing or not, or if this version of Wolverine is not as strong as the ones we see in other stories, but he is easily able to overcome Weapon X. Next, he is sent on a mission basically to catch Steve Rogers and immobilize him. Along with this, he finds out that Weapon X had a name, obviously Logan, and he wonders what his name would be. So this cut really plays into the Steve Rogers fight. He basically overpowers Steve Rogers in the fight. Steve was the original weapon, I guess. He's Weapon 0, or Weapon 1, sorry, the super soldier. But then Peter Parker, he's distracted by wanting to know who he is. Department H basically give him the message, hey, you need to finish this mission, get rid of Captain America. He holds off, wanting to know his name. Finally, Department H give him his name of Peter, and bam, Captain America is then easily dispatched. And that is 2 of our main heroes that you would see in comic books destroyed by Weapon H. Oh, Weapon 8, sorry. H is a letter. Next up, he's sent on a mission to immobilize the Black Widow, but she's aware of the plan and in turn tries to capture him so that the Russians can use him as a weapon of their own. He is contacted telepathically by someone part of the Spider-Man universe. I think it's Anya Corazon, but I cannot pronounce words. And he is teleported away into the multiverse. This is part of the Spider Society. He ends up on Earth, the 616 universe, where he not really does much there. Basically waiting for missions to carry out and see what's next for him. And that is all we've seen of Weapon 8 so far. I quite like the concept of him. When he goes to battle, they obviously armor up his legs behind him, wears glasses over his 6 eyes, but then in the fight you see them come out. A good alternate version of the Spider-Man character, and I guess it's one that wouldn't blend into public like you could with the regular Peter Parker. So, yeah, cool idea. Let's see if it ever appears again in the comic books.